Watch What Neves, and I'm not here with my co-host Jazz. Poor Jazz is sick. He is under the weather. So send him some love and some good vibes, but he may show up in the chat. So, he's not completely gone. He'll sprinkle a few notes here and there. But welcome everybody to Salaam Nerds Podcast. I wasn't on last week because I was in Arizona with my friend's wedding, and it was pretty cool. It was a pretty fun time, and I sneak into one episode last week. I got FaceTime a little bit just to say that I've been on every single podcast. I was like, that's what I wanted to do. I know Jazz has missed a few, and I haven't missed a single podcast. So even though I technically missed it, I showed my face so that I technically showed up for that podcast. Get my money's worth. So that's the only reason I did that. And I want to introduce our guest Rezi, who also wasn't able to make it last weekend because he was doing some big things. What's going on, Rezi?
Hey y'all. I also took the same motto. I want to make it for every episode. So I also jumped in the chat. But just want to say I was in New York at the United Nations General Assembly, which is like the Super Bowl of diplomacy. It's diplomatic speed dating at its finest. And it was just high flying in New York, and it was quite busy, but very good. And I'm fresh off of the New York State of Mind tour. Just kidding, I wasn't on it, but I went to the show last night, and it was just, 50 years of hip hop. I mean, Wu-Tang, Nas, De La. I mean, it was amazing. It was amazing. So I'm still on a high from that.
That's
Plus this
awesome,
episode.
man. That's awesome. I can't believe you got to go to that. What are the chances that you would be in New York at the same time that's happening?
Oh no, I watched it here in DC.
Oh, you went to
So
so it was
yeah,
here in
yeah, yeah,
DC.
yeah,
So
yeah.
you
They came to
so you went
DC,
back and
so they were
forth.
here.
Wow.
I know, right? So, but it was good.
That's awesome. All right, and we also want to introduce Dome. Welcome back, Dome.
Hey, what's going on, everybody? Thanks for having me back.
I think you've been on every single episode, right? So
Yeah,
far.
man, I had the Ahsoka streak going. So we got to keep this thing tight,
This is basically your show because I missed an episode, Jazz missed an episode. You're the only one that's been on every single episode, man. You're holding it down.
Yeah, man, and I want to give a shout out quickly to my wife because today is actually our court date, marriage anniversary. So thank you for letting me hop on here for an hour, take it up and talk about Ahsoka. And she watched the episode too, so hopefully she's on watching this too.
Awesome. All right. So let's get down to it because we don't want to take too much time away from her. So we'll get to the nitty gritty. All right, let's do it. So Ahsoka, episode 7. Again, I really, really love this episode. I was so happy to see Ezra. I was not sure how I felt about Ezra at the end of the last episode. I was like, who is this space Moses that's like that's like popped up? We got space Jesus with Obi-Wan Kenobi. Now we got space Moses with Ezra. And I was like, but man, this actor really embodied Ezra. Like I thought he was Ezra. Like it was so good. Just the quips, the jokes, just the way he looks at Sabine. I thought that actor did a great job. Rosie, what are your thoughts?
So since we both missed the last episode, can I just say that last episode was amazing. I think I watched the entrance of Thrawn 18 times. Like just the Chimera coming over, and then like his like, just the night troopers and everything. That was just like so over the top amazing. And his first line. Okay, so that I just had to get that out of my system. But for this episode, I mean, I'm still on a high from a lot of those feels, and I totally hear you. I think Ezra, the character, I mean, the actor just really embodied the character. Like, I've been really, reluctant to kind of release my love from like the Rebels series into this, Ahsoka show, but they've done such an amazing job with casting. I'm just truly impressed.
Yeah. When I first saw him, I was like, I don't know if these contacts are doing it for me. The eyes were throwing me off a little bit, but you know what?
Yeah.
I'm gonna let it go. I'm gonna let it go because I was pretty happy with it. Adone, what are your thoughts?
So going back to the space Jesus and Moses thing, so we had this joke last time. So Obi-Wan is what white people think Jesus looked like, but Ezra is what Jesus actually looked like in real
Yeah,
life. I just
that's
want to put that. I just want to put the bars on that. Just keeping it real. Keeping it 100. I love this entrance. I love everything about what they did with the character so far. And, you know, Ezra, he seems very hopeful. I
Yeah.
was expecting a little bit of a, like the beard and everything. I was like, well, he actually still got, he's got the, the space glint in his eyes. He really has the hope still. And I was a little surprised by that. But we'll get into that with the current episode. But no, I loved everything about his entrance.
Yeah, I agree with you. There's this hope and optimism with him, especially at the end of the episode. We're like, I think I'm gonna go home, and I was like, don't say that, don't say that. That's usually what people say when they don't get to go home. So that kind of scared me a little bit. So we'll get to that when we talk about it. But this episode starts off with uh, General Syndulla, and she's in court. She's in traffic court right now. It was she was going to pay a fine, but no, they
Traffic
were.
court.
Yeah, I love it.
And they got this douchebag guy who is kind of just going after her over and over again. And he says you ignored an order, and she goes, "Nah, I ignored you," which I thought was pretty funny. I really really like that. Um, Other cool things that they mentioned, Gideon on Mandalore, which kind of like solidifies the timeline in here. So I thought that was pretty cool. And then we get our hero, 3CPO, come through, which I thought was pretty exciting. And he came through with a message from Leia Organa, who retroactively kind of approved the mission, which is so Leia, which is just, I really really love that. What are your thoughts of the court scene, the traffic court scene?
Traffic court. That's like the best way to describe this. I mean, first of all, you had this like, probably uh, Empire sympathizer that's ready to, set the council on fire and storm I mean, sorry, we're not talking about that. But
Wait a minute there, sir. Hold on.
storm the council. Yeah, no. So I mean, it was like theater. Like I mean, most hearings are theater, and that's exactly what it was. And I think, a court martial, like I think you would probably have like a court martial afterwards. But I think just it was just interesting the timing and like that is just very much a Leia thing to do, but also very much a Hera thing to do. So like any one of the
Mhm.
rebels, like, all right, how can we like get out of the pinch? All right, let's let's call our friends or you know use the force.
That's true. That's true. Adon, what are your thoughts?
So I love the opening. I love that, shout out to Filoni again for not giving us some stupid, Leia deepfake CGI. He just had
Oh
3PO
yeah,
come in to come deliver all of her lines, which I thought is kind of funny because this is, I think, the first time in C3PO's life where he actually just delivered the mission on tap and on time. So
yeah.
I thought that was pretty cool. And then the council member that, just giving all the nonsense. I think that character is directly taken from the Heir to the Empire books. There's a character whose name is Phalia, and he's a Bothan, and he's just kind of in the same vein. He's up in Moth Moss's business all the time, always trying to get in Han and Leia's way with stuff. I thought they really tried to draw on that for this. I thought it was really cool to show how not only the fact that the New Republic is struggling with things, but it's kind of the same BS
Yeah.
that they had back when the Old Republic was around. So I really like that part of it. And just one last thing, I loved how when the council member had that line, it's a mere droid. Chopper was getting all like up in his feelings about that. He was about to go
What?
scorch Earth, and I was like,
Yeah.
"Oh shit!" Like, what's?
Chopper was
About
like,
to
hold
go
me back, hold me
down.
back.
Yeah,
About
he's
to
out
go
there.
down.
I was like, "Okay."
Oh man, that was funny. I
These are
really, really like that. Go
these
to
are
Resi.
not the parking tickets you're looking for.
That's so funny. I also like the fact that they really kind of go into Leia kind of seems to be frustrated with the whole infrastructure of like the bureaucracy and the red tape a little bit, which kind of goes into the Bloodline novel, which kind of shows like how she loses power and she kind of forms her own little rebels group, and which we see in the sequel movies, and I think that's really really cool. So yeah, definitely get to see that a lot. The chopper thing was hilarious to me. I also really really enjoyed that. All right, and then we kind of see Ahsoka, and she is basically training, and I don't know if we talked about this, but like, you know how the table kind of comes up from the floor? She's technically training on top of the table to eat on. I'm like, "Bruh," which kind of weirds me out. It's like, we eat there, and she's like just training.
Astaghfirullah.
I know, exactly.
You eat here.
Oh man, but she's training, and we see the Anakin hologram, which, oh my god, more Hayden Christensen. Like I love it. I'm super on board with that. And it was the short hair version, which means it was pretty early on in the Clone Wars, and he made these like videotapes for her. Which I thought were really, really cool. And they also mentioned these tapes in an episode of Rebels, where Ezra actually gets to kind of see some of these videos and saying like, "Oh yeah, he watched Anakin's videos too." Really, really cool throwback. I really, really like that, and you could really see like she kind of got over her unresolved issues with Anakin after going to, I don't know, the world between worlds, or the ancestral plane, or whatever she was at. She kind of just like, it felt like her image of Anakin was kind of tainted by what he became. And now, after having this closure and having her training be completed and becoming, Ahsoka the White, she kind of comes back and she's kind of just like at peace with it, and she is just like, she takes this training and she just has a good vibe with it, instead of like having like, flashbacks and just trauma with it. What were your thoughts on that? Adom, you want to go first this time?
Yeah, so first of all, I love that Anakin had the three big name drops. He mentioned
Oh
Grievous, he
yes.
mentioned Asajj Ventress, and he mentioned Dooku, which I thought was awesome in live action to hear that from him. And correct me if I'm wrong, but I think the lines that Hayden was talking about in that scene, I think that's the part. And I think it's from Tales of the Jedi when he's training her, and
Yes.
he has all the clones come up and they do like the barrage of stuns,
Yep.
and she can't handle it. Like she gets really knocked unconscious, but we come to find out that that specific training allows her to directly survive Order 66, which I thought was
Yes.
awesome to kind of show that in live action. And I think this was the last bit of the voiceovers that we got from like the promos for Ahsoka. So I think we've heard all of Hayden's lines that he's recorded so far. So if there's anything else, it'll be an added bonus. And I also loved how he mentioned like practice these sword techniques probably more than I did.
Probably more than I
And I
did.
remember that line from Attack of the Clones when Obi-Wan's like, if you practice your sword techniques as much as your wit, you would rival Master Yoda as a swordsman. And I was like, well, maybe he's actually a little self-reflection from Anakin. He recognizes he should practice more, and he's kind of like, do as I say, not as I do type of thing.
Yeah.
With
He
that.
was
No, I thought it was awesome. Yeah.
Anakin spent a little more time with Padme and a little less time with the swords.
Very true. Different kind of sword, you know.
He's got the Rishta hair.
Yeah.
He's got the
Yeah,
Rishta
yeah.
hair.
That is true.
Uh,
That is true. I definitely like that. And there's 20 recordings. I wonder if we'll get to see more of them.
yeah.
That's really, really cool. All right. So they're still in the whales, and all of a sudden they seem to be coming out of hyperspace. So they're coming out of hyperspace, and they kind of see like there's some issues going on. So they come out of the whale, and they see a barrage of these mines everywhere, which, like, I don't know, I feel like Thrawn just had them laying around and just throw them out there. And, he said he was going to go after those Purgles. Thrawn is smart dude, man. He knows what he's doing. And after that, the Purgles were like, oh shit, we out. Like, they just dipped so fast. They were like, oh, that's how it is. We out. They just dipped. And I thought that was really, really funny. And then Ahsoka found some place to hide in the debris, which was on like the carcass and the bones of the whales, which was really, really cool. And they kind of just lay low there for a while. What were your thoughts on their entrance and the whole whales, Rezi?
I thought it was pretty cool. I mean, I think like after um, Ahsoka went through her test, her trial,
Yeah.
she just really reemerged as this transformative character. Just really has this peacefulness, serene nature to her that was kind of there, but I think there's like a lot of guilt, a lot of like angst and anger and other things that were kind of like really with her. But now it's like gone. You could just kind of see and Rosario Dawson just like flawlessly playing this character. I mean, I knew she'd be amazing, but like she's really exceeding my expectations.
Yeah, a lot of people complained that she wasn't playing the Ahsoka they remembered, and that's because she's not the Ahsoka they remember. She's been through
Not. She's
trauma.
an adult.
She's different, right? And you can see that when the young version of Ahsoka is there, and she's playing the Ahsoka you remember, and now
Exactly.
she feels like a combination of the new wise Ahsoka and a little bit more of the younger Ahsoka. You see her laugh, you see her joke around a little bit, so. I feel
Yeah.
like, now that the trauma is gone, you can see a little bit of her acting and how she is combining the two Ahsokas together. Adon, what are your thoughts?
Yeah, so I love the fact that this was kind of just like what happens to Obi-Wan in Attack of the Clones when he shows up at Geonosis for the first time and Jango is chasing him around the, I guess it's a meteor ring around Geonosis, but it's very similar to that. They kind of hide out for a second. And not to jump too far ahead, but I love the fact that we get some of Thrawn's stratagems right away, where he's basically like, okay, Jedi showing up by herself. We're not going to make any sudden moves. Our forces are depleted. We're going to be very careful about this. And I think my favorite part of the episode was when Morgan Elsbeth hands him the little data thing, and she goes, "Here's what the Inquisitors know about Ahsoka." And he reads Anakin Skywalker, and his face just—it's like the thing from Hot Wings, where like Shaq tastes like the he's like, oh shit, like I don't know if I'm fucking with here. Like, wait a minute, this might be a problem for me.
I know.
Exactly. Yeah.
He was like,
I mean,
all right.
if she's anything like her master, she'll be unpredictable and dangerous. So I mean, like that just
he totally changed his outlook on the entire situation. I thought that was great, and that goes into what we talked about last time. So, for everyone who doesn't know, there was a book that came out, I think in 2018. It's called Thrawn Alliances, and there's 2 consistent time jumps in the book. And in the story, Thrawn and Anakin meet during the Clone Wars,
right?
And they're on a mission to save Padme. It's kind of near the end of the Clone Wars. And there's a time jump between that time period and after the Clone Wars are over, before A New Hope. And the Emperor sends Thrawn and Vader to this world to, look for something. So Thrawn and Anakin, Thrawn and Vader are interacting in 2 different time periods. And so Thrawn probably is one of the few people who actually knows Anakin is Vader. Yep. And it's kind of funny in the book because he'll like mention like, oh, when I was in the Clone Wars, General Skywalker did this. And Vader would just be like, Anakin Skywalker is dead. And Thrawn's just like, yeah, okay, sure. I know it's you in there, but I will put you on blast. It's fine. But I thought that was a great call to that because there are a lot of people wondering, like, how does Thrawn know about Anakin? Like, that's why, right from the book.
Yeah. I think they even mentioned like how Thrawn knows how the ancient people who used to guide people in the galaxy were actually called Skywalkers, and that's how they got their names and stuff like that. And that's also mentioned in one of the books. So Thrawn is very knowledgeable. He knows a lot he's got their number. So he's a strategist and he loves learning about other cultures. But we see in Rebels, he collects things from other cultures and learns about them. So he has a vast knowledge of like just everything. So it's super, super cool. And as Jazz mentioned in the comments, he goes, it's amazing how quickly he adjusted his strategy to that knowledge. In an instant, he's like, I know what to do. He was like, yo, say less. He like, once he found out, he's like, say less, I got this. And so exactly what happened. He knew how to prioritize. So we get to see that, which is really cool. Then we go back to Ezra and Sabine, and basically Sabine is, pretty much giving Ezra the lowdown on the sequel movie and on the prequel movies and on the the original 3, right? She's like, yeah, the Battle of Endor, that's what happened, and then the Emperor dies, or so we think. She didn't seem to believe that the Emperor died, which kind of like almost retcons or makes
they're retconning Rise of Skywalker completely.
Exactly.
Yes, completely, absolutely.
That's what people say.
They kind of just because like the whole somehow Palpatine returned, and like, okay, so apparently everyone kind of didn't believe that Palpatine was dead, so having them say somehow he returned wasn't that big of a surprise because rumors were always circulating. So someone told me
this isn't the first retcon though with that. So this is why in Mandalorian they had all the clones of Gideon. Yeah, they're like laying breadcrumbs along the way to like build up to that, which is a little annoying to me. I don't particularly like that.
I don't mind it. I think it's kind of funny because I wasn't the biggest fan of Rise of the Skywalker.
Me either.
Yeah.
But it's definitely funny because you can tell what they're doing, and it's pretty funny. But yeah, she tells him everything that happened, and he's kind of like, "Oh, cool," but he's also like, doesn't know everything because he doesn't know that they don't have a way back yet. So he's kind of just like, oh, and he thinks Ahsoka is dead. So that's kind of just happening. And then while that's happening, I believe Ahsoka tries to communicate with Sabine. And what Ahsoka doesn't know is that the Night Sisters are in the group chat also, and they kind of just like figured out what was going on. So they were like, "Oh shit, the Night Sisters are in this group chat. Now they know where we're going." And then Ahsoka goes to find the Night Sisters, and basically Thrawn starts attacking Ahsoka, and she's like, "I don't need to uh, follow Ahsoka. I know exactly where she's going. We're good." So, Rosie, what are your thoughts on that, or any other thoughts that you might have?
Yeah, so I think I love the recap, the history recap. I think one thing that we got that we haven't heard thus far is Zeb is training recruits. It's like the first reference of Zeb in the entire series, which we
Oh
thought we would have
yeah,
gotten him earlier. We thought we'd have seen him. Obviously, he was in, I think, Mandalorian, but um, you know, he and then mentions that Hera's commanding a fleet. So he was like definitely taken aback by like their involvement and like how essentially they've grown up, leveled up in their careers with like the what was the rebellion and now the New Republic. But like his central like emphasis, which he's kind of said through like from that point all the way to the end of the episode, is just getting home. But
mm.
I love the exchange where he was like, she said, Sabine says, Ahsoka took me on as her apprentice.
He's like,
And then
what?
he was like, what? Why?
Why? Why would you do that?
I thought it's so funny. He's like
The shade.
catching himself, but he was like totally like, you don't make a good Mandalorian or a Jedi. Like, how are we working out this here?
Yeah. And then he tried to take it back. He was like, oh no, you did train that one time. Yes, I remember.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, for the dark saber, right? And then
Exactly.
eventually, yeah.
Yeah. No, that was really funny. I did like that. Um, yeah. And then as Ahsoka is going down there, she runs into Balin, and Balin kind of separates from Shin, and he's kind of like, "You're gonna go your way, I'm gonna go my way." It's really funny because Thrawn is like, "Yeah, we're gonna send these two Jedi's to go kill them, and we don't really give a shit if they come back or not, whatever." And Balin's like, "Yeah, I'm not really gonna do what you want me to do. I got my own thing going on." Uh, so it's kind of like Miles Morales, like, "Nah, I'm gonna do my own thing." He just like kind of just went ahead, and we still don't know what that is. I'm so confused because I was like thinking like, oh, whatever he is doing involves Ahsoka, but he was like, no, I wasn't expecting Ahsoka. So he goes, fights her, and then says, "You're not going to be able to defeat me." And she goes, "Well, I don't have to." And then she just runs away and takes a little wolf guy and disappears. Now, what are your thoughts about Bailey? Because I feel like that is the most interesting mystery of this whole show. And what is he getting at? What is he talking about? We got one more episode, and I still have no idea what's going on with this guy. I don't know if we'll ever get a prequel or what, or maybe in one of the Bad Batch or some other show we'll get some kind of like history behind him. But he is the most interesting character to come on this show that we haven't seen before. What are your thoughts about that? Adom, you want to go first?
Sure. So a couple of things. So starting off, I thought it was really interesting when Ahsoka shows up to rematch with him. He's just like, "Oh, welcome, surprise, whatever, to see you here." And he says directly to her, "I can't let you intervene." And they start fighting. But then when Hu Yang kind of, makes an exit for her to get away, Balin does not chase her at all. He just kind of watches her go away, and he's like, "Oh, I have an opening to go after whatever I want to go after. Now I can let me go." Rest in peace to Ray Stevenson. I really hope that
I
I don't know if they should.
know.
I don't know if they should recast, but like I don't know, Jared Butler or someone who looks like him should come in and just play him. Going forward, maybe because I think there's too much of that character that we don't know about, and I actually think that with all the Heir to the Empire vibes and the fact that the next movie is going to be about that time period. So in the Heir to the Empire, the Emperor had this base on this planet called Wayland, where Darth Sabayoth was living. He's a clone of a Jedi that the Palpatine had put away. I don't know. I think maybe Balin is sensing there's some kind of like vault or lair that the Emperor put away that's been calling to him. Maybe that's what he's after. I have no idea what this guy's after.
The other thing we hear him say are things like, "Oh, this is a place of madness and nightmares and fairy tales," and he uses all of these words, and which is really interesting because Hu Yang also says like in the last episode, in a galaxy far, far away, and I never realized this. I guess I kind of realized this, but it never really clicked to me. In a galaxy far, far away is literally the same thing as in a kingdom far, far away. They're basically fairy tales. Star Wars is basically fairy tales, and I never really put the two together, which is pretty interesting. Like Star Wars is basically somebody's retelling of what actually happened. So if things don't make sense, then it kind of makes sense because the retellings don't usually make sense. It's an unreliable narrator, which is something that I started thinking about when I started watching, when I started hearing Hu Young talk about in a galaxy far, far away. I thought that was pretty interesting.
Jazz is in the comments. He's saying that Balin is the Night King. He's going to break the wheel of Coruscant. Straight up Game of Thrones.
Game of Thrones ripoff.
I mean, he's probably not wrong.
There is a lot of Game of Thrones vibes here. Ruzzy, what are your thoughts in terms of Balin?
Yeah, I mean, I think it just breaks my heart that he passed away. I mean, like we get to see this just incredible character and incredible actor who's playing him, and it's so sad that he passed. I do think he should be recast if he makes it through, just because I feel like I'm already invested in the character. I really want to see like what are his motives, what is he getting at? Because it's not Thrawn per se. It's something to do with this planet. And going back to your point on the in a galaxy far, far away, Neebs, like I think when that line came, the way that I looked at it is it a retelling of the Star Wars universe as we know it from maybe this world that we're in right now? Because the title of the episode's far, far away. Like you can't really get there except unless you're with the Skywalker or this hyperspace ring. So like, is it like one universe or one galaxy's telling of another universe, and that's the one that we know? But like, yeah, I'm really, really not confused, but just intrigued by like the mystery behind Balin. And then his comment to his apprentice was like clearly like this is the end. I
Yeah.
mean, he said like impatience for victory will guarantee defeat, right? And she like was in shock, like legit shock that he's like, you're not helping, right? So like I think part of it is like, yes, the apprentice and master dynamic, but I feel like it's a little something more that we don't like. It's something nefarious, right? Like I think it's like, all right, peace out. Like I did my thing, I'm going to just go pursue my own, personal interests, whatever nefarious interests they may be.
Yeah. And one thing I did notice that I never noticed about before with Shin and Balin, they have a green kyber crystal on them at all times. So like, is that the kyber crystal they had when they used to be Jedis, and now they're into the orange one because they shifted over to being not Jedis? I thought that was really interesting and very cool too. I don't know. I'm really, really interesting. I'm very curious about Shin's future because Balin seems to think that she is headed in a certain direction, which is very interesting because Ahsoka at one point does say to her, "Hey, lay down your weapon and I can help you." And then she says, "Nope," and dips. But I don't know. I don't know where we're gonna go with that, which I think is really, really cool. But what I do know is that Duran is kind of anticipating all of these things in a little checkered board. So he's kind of just like figuring out where all of this stuff is happening. And here we kind of see a little, I don't know, like a caravan, like a little wagon. I don't know what to go. I don't know what these Nazis are, but it definitely felt like, like an old Western a little bit where they're going
A
on these little
caravan would be
wagons.
right.
Yeah, like a
Yeah,
caravan.
yeah.
Even there's a point where like I think I thought was really funny in the caravan there is a little Nazi kid and he uses a slingshot, which is funny because Ezra's main weapon was a slingshot, and I thought that was really, really cool. What were your thoughts about when all of these night troopers were chasing Ezra and Sabine, and all of that was going on? Dome.
I thought it was great how we got some of the classic Ezra in the middle of a battle banter back.
Yeah.
Straight from Rebels. He was just like, let's talk. Like, wait a minute, forget it. And then he and Sabine were going back and forth, and she tried to give him his lightsaber back, and he was just like, nah, I'm good. The Force is all I need. He
Yes.
clearly has honed his, Force skills being out there without a weapon all this time, and it's clearly made him more powerful. And I don't know. I love it whenever a character stops a lightsaber blade with their hands using the Force. I think that's one of the
Yo, it was so cool.
Yeah, I think that's one of the coolest.
It's badass.
It's the cleanest
so
way of
awesome.
using the Force. I think it's awesome. They did a little bit of that in Kenobi when when Vader was fighting Reva. He was moving the blade around with his hand. I was like, oh, that's just amazing. But the fight scene itself with the caravan, I thought it was really, it was a little slow to me because I was like, all right, when's Ahsoka going to show up and save them? And she came right on time as soon as, all the troopers were there. And speaking of the troopers, I still think that those are like zombie Night Sisters. I don't think those are actually like Thrawn's men because they're all tied up with the red cloths. That's the same vibes that the Night Sisters wear. So I don't know. I thought it was interesting that Thrawn just pulled them all back out without them fighting at all. And God forbid, as soon as Ahsoka showed up, she looked at Shin and she was like, hey, I want to help you. And there was a complete sad puppy face from Shin. And she just like realized she was completely alone. The troopers had left. Only her ride was there. I was kind of like, damn, is like Shin going to become Ahsoka's new apprentice? And then Ezra's going to end up training Sabine and Jason. I don't know where this is going.
Yeah, I am not sure too, but I also noticed that also. I thought that was pretty funny. Rusty, what are your thoughts?
Yeah, I think when the caravans came to a halt and it was like hand-to-hand combat, like that's when the badassery really just kind of let loose. And having the Force as your ally, yeah, that's never a bad thing. And just that blade stuff was just so awesome.
Yeah, it reminded me of Ben Solo when he stopped the gunshot in the beginning of Force Awakens. I thought that was really cool too.
Yeah, that was dope. Yeah, actually, I remember when Huyang was kind of like flying over, he said, well, they're all back together again. Hope they survive the outcome. It's just all that sass. But it was great. It's such a great fight scene. I think also like having the different fight scenes all happening at the same time was nice. I think we needed a little bit more of that. It's just my own personal opinion. And less so of like the car chase scene, if you will.
Yeah.
But I'm more into like hand-to-hand combat than I am like,
Yeah, I did. Oh, go ahead, Adon.
Yeah, I was gonna say one thing I forgot to add. So going back to the Thrawn with the chessboard, he immediately noticed that Balin was missing.
Yes.
And I thought that was really interesting because he didn't really break stride at all, but he clearly like filed that away. Like, okay, this mercenary is a little bit different. I'm going to have to keep an eye on this because he clearly thought, okay, Balin's not there. And he explained to Morgan, like, okay, well, we loaded up our cargo. Even though we lost the battle, we're still going to win the war type vibes. And she was like, what are you talking about? And she was like, well, Balin wasn't there. So, I consider this a win still. And I was just like, that's really interesting that he's already thinking like 10 steps ahead of everybody else because they clearly are making moves to get the heck out of there.
Yeah, he says time is on their side, which is I find very interesting because I don't see how Ezra, Ahsoka, Yu Young, and Sabine are gonna get back if they can't hustle back to that ship. There's no more whales for them to hitch a ride with, so who knows what's gonna happen and how they're going to get back. That's gonna be really funny. Are they going to get back in pure Ezra fashion where he puts on the uniforms of a stormtrooper and sneaks in? That would be typical Ezra. I don't know. We'll see. But I really, really like that. And he says he feels like he's going home after all. And I'm like, you sure about that? You sure about that? Oh man, that's like the worst thing to say. If he dies, I'm going to riot. I am not going to be happy. Like we came all this way to find Ezra just for him to die. I'm gonna be super mad.
No, he and Zeb have to have a moment together. They have to all be back because when Ahsoka said like, I miss this reunion, like Zeb wasn't there for that, and neither was Chopper. They all have to be together. I think.
Hera too. Yeah, for sure.
Hera too. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. All right. So that's good. One thing that I thought was interesting, they mentioned the Battle of Andor, and these little turtle
Mhm.
guys kind of reminded me of like the Ewok. They're just like trying their darndest to do anything, but really they didn't really do anything other than like throw a rock at somebody once or twice.
The Ewoks put in some work, man. Don't
Uh,
sleep on them.
yeah,
Yeah.
the
They put in
Ewoks.
more work.
Yeah, they had some sticks and they were stabbing people and they had traps. These turtles were pacifists. I was like, they really nothing. They just go in the fetal position, both them and their little caravan, which I thought was pretty funny. But yeah, the episode ends. The episode was by Geeta Patel, which I thought was really really cool. I think she did a great job with this episode. There's a lot of cool things that were done. Definitely a few Easter eggs that I really want to share, and I thought it'd be cool for us to kind of go over some of these Easter eggs. The first thing that we noticed, General Akbar was here, like legit General Akbar, not somebody who looks like him, but him himself, which I thought was really really cool. So
Not General Akbar.
yeah, Akbar. Oh man, that was really really
All right.
cool.
Was that
Um,
in the court scene?
yeah, in
Yeah,
the
at the
court scene.
beginning.
Yep, that's where
Okay,
we see it.
that's what I
Yeah.
thought. Okay.
And also, since they mentioned what happened on Mandalore, there may be a little bit of a reference to the Shadow Council because the Shadow Council was obsessed with Thrawn, and we saw that in the Mandalorian. Even though Gideon was kind of an outlaw and doing his own thing, he was still part of the Shadow Council, which one of their directives was about Thrawn. One of the guys and the in the Shadow Council is directly related to Thrawn in many ways. So I thought that was cool little Easter egg.
Captain Pelion. Yeah.
Yes,
Yeah.
very very cool. Also, the original voice of C-3PO was done. I don't think he was in the suit because they noticed the suit's a little different. His neck was a little thicker, so I think there's somebody else in the suit. But he did get to do the voice, which I thought was really really cool. So that is awesome. And we mentioned earlier that they name drop some names, which was Dooku, Asajj Ventress, and Grievous, which is really really cool. For the people that don't know, Grievous and Duca were in the movies. Asajj is not. Asajj Ventress was actually in the Clone War cartoons, and she was an apprentice of Dooku until he kind of like disavowed her or something and was like, I'm not your master anymore. And then she went to her ancestors, which were the Night Sisters, which is very, very interesting because her name being dropped here and the Night Sisters being here. And we see a bunch of these cargoes being loaded. I don't know what's in these cargoes. Are they zombies? Are there dead bodies? We have no idea. But I don't know. Maybe there's a way for Assange Ventress to come back from the dead. I think that would be really, really cool. Let's see. There was this one point where they're talking about the odds with Hugh Young, which is a reference to Han Solo's classic line, "Never tell me the odds," which I thought was really, really cool. A little bit of a reference there. Also, I don't know if this one is true, but a lot of people believe that the chainmail that Ezra is wearing is from the dog tags of stormtroopers, which is really, really cool. I didn't know stormtroopers had dog tags, but I thought that was a pretty cool. I think a lot of people believe that. So
They
It might have
did
been a
because of
reference to
Finn. Because Finn
yeah.
had it.
oh yeah,
Finn
Finn
had a
had
dog
the
tag.
Yeah.
That's how we know his
FN2.
name.
Yeah,
Yeah. I think that
right.
was also a reference to when Thrawn was saying like our numbers have dwindled. It's like,
Yeah,
Exactly.
now we
yeah.
know
Check it
where
out.
they yeah.
Now
The
you know
fact you make old chainmail out of the dog tags, that means
Ezra was just
your numbers are done. Yeah,
yeah.
exactly.
Ezra was putting in work, man, with the Ninja Turtles. He
Without a
was
saber. Yeah,
right.
exactly.
The Ninja Turtles, we've seen what they do. They can't do shit. What I did think was really interesting was when one of the caravans broke down, they made a little circle. That is actually where the phrase "circle the wagon" comes from. What they would do is they would circle the wagon and protect the weakest people. That's an actual thing that they would do back in the day, which I thought was really, really cool. Um, let's see. What else do I have? Oh, one thing that I think is just really funny. We see Ahsoka this time use her two swords instead of one sword. Because last time she fought Balon, she used one sword, and now she's using two swords. And since I've been watching One Piece so much, I kept thinking like two sword style. They're just like fighting each other with that. But it was really, really funny. I really, really liked that. Um,
And not only that, the music was dope. I mean, it was like a samurai.
Yeah,
Like I
all
loved
the
it. That scene
cinematography.
was so good.
It
Yeah,
was so
I
good.
needed more of that. I want all of that.
There was this wide shot of them just like doing this kind of like pose where she's holding both swords out like this. It just,
Yeah,
oh my god, I need a
it's so
poster
dope.
of that. It's
It's
so
so
cool.
awesome. And then just like the way she holds it, I mean, it's just so majestic. And he fights like a knight, and she
Yeah,
fights
like
kind of
like a samurai
like a
or
ninja. Or
yeah,
yeah. It's
yeah.
pretty dope.
It's very, very cool. I don't know. Uh Big fan of this episode. This show has not done me wrong. The only thing that I didn't really like with the Ninja Turtles, not a big fan, but they gotta, they gotta make new characters. They gotta sell toys. It is what it is, right? Star Wars is a fairy tale for kids. Just because it's a fairy tale for kids doesn't mean it's not complicated. Doesn't mean it's not nuanced. Doesn't mean it's not something amazing with great character development and stuff like that. But it is for kids. But not only for kids, So I'm definitely loving this stuff, but I know they gotta sell the toys. and we've seen that every movie, everything, they have like one new character where you're like, this is definitely for the toys. So I'm not mad at it. But overall, love this episode. Can't wait for the next one. So many things I want to know. I want to know what's going on with Balin. I want to know what's going on with the cargo. I want to know how they're going to get back. I don't know. What are your thoughts? Russ, you want to go first this time?
Yeah, I mean, I think in addition to that, I like, yeah, the cargo, like, what is that all about? How does that fit in the broader picture? How does this set up, the resurgence of the empire, or the first resistance? And so I think like there's a lot of pieces that obviously I think is going to come in the movie, but I think dropping the Mandalorian, dropping Gideon, and just kind of Moff Gideon, and trying to like set all the breadcrumbs for this larger story, I think that's good. But I also do like how contained this series is as well. I mean, it's definitely Ahsoka and the Rebels. Like, there's no question about that.
Right.
But I think like had had we done things a little differently, where it was like Ahsoka just as a solo character for one season, and then second season do exactly what they did here, like start to finish, I
Mm-hmm.
would have been fine with that. But I think I just want more Ahsoka. And so many questions to be answered. I think all of everything you raised is exactly what I want to know.
Yeah. Oh, one Easter egg that I forgot. Balin. There were some people online that zoomed in on his wrist, and on his wrist there was a list of names, and the names
Yep.
were Luke, Leia, Han, R2D2, Chewie, C3PO, and Ben. I don't know what they mean. I don't know. Was it a hit list? Was it something else? I don't know.
That's
But
some
it's
Millennium Falcon OG crew, man. That's
Yep.
right.
yeah.
I'm
That's
surprised they put Ben on there. I thought, but yeah, I did see that little
Well, here's the
snippet
thing,
on
right?
social media.
Is it Ben Kenobi or is it Ben Solo? We don't know. Because Ben Solo
Solo.
would be like
Yeah,
5.
Kenobi would be dead,
Yeah, and
right?
Kenobi would be dead.
Oh yeah,
Yeah, so
Kenobi's definitely dead. Yeah, yeah.
so it'd be Solo, but is he like an infant? Like,
Yeah, but we don't
where are we?
we don't know the context of
Yeah.
the list. Are these people that were, in the original Falcon? Is that why? Or are these people still alive and they're trying to, it's a hit list to kill people? I don't know. We have no idea what the context is. I just think it's really, really cool.
Also,
Adone, what
like,
are
what's the like the time difference between Battle of Endor and Ahsoka? Does anybody know?
I think this is like 10 years after that period,
yeah.
because
Got it.
remember, I look at it like, look at how old Jason is, because he was
Mm,
born like right around that time, and he's like old enough to walk around and use the Force and stuff like that. So he's my benchmark for the time period,
Yeah,
got
because
it.
that's good.
he was a kid during Endor, so that's how I look at it. Yeah.
That makes perfect sense. All right, cool. Adone, what are your final thoughts about this episode and thoughts about what we might see in the finale?
Sure, I loved it. One thing I do want more of is obviously Balin, but I want more Shin. I want like a flashback or two about her, kind of maybe how she and Balin met and kind of where she's at. Because the last time we saw her, she was riding away on her howler, and like, was she going back to the fleet, or I mean, was she going back to Thrawn's ship? Is she going back to? Is she trying to find Balin? We don't know what's happening with that. And then the next thing is, okay, Thrawn made it clear that time is on his side. He's got his cargo almost loaded up. It sounds like he's going to be booking it out of there pretty quickly. So I want to know, all right, is the New Republic going to come, or are they going to have to, like you said, Ezra are going to steal a stormtrooper suit and, steal their way aboard, or what's going to happen with that? And then the other thing with all of this is, where do the Night Sisters fit into this? Is Thrawn going to take them back to Dathomir and go from there? Like, because they clearly are just helping him and kind of giving him whatever he's asking for, and they're clearly going to be able to cash that in for a big favor at some point. I don't know if it's taking them back to their home world or what's going on with that.
It does feel like that they want off this place, right? That's one of the things that he is helping them with, and then that's really what they're doing. They're calling him Lord. They're calling him Admiral. It's definitely feel like they're kind of either using him or they're really just like, hey, we got to get out of here. I don't know. We'll see. I'm very curious where the Night Sisters come into this, because Night Sisters are really popular in the game. They're big in the Rebels and in Clone Wars. So I'm very excited to see where they go with that. It's really, really cool. All right. Well, thank you guys for joining us. This is all we have for today's episode. Join us next week for the finale. Same star time, same star channel. And hopefully we will have a very satisfying finale is what I'm hoping for. So let's go. Until next time, guys. Salaam, nerds.
All right. Thanks,
Peace.
guys.